March 2026. On a quiet stretch of road in Jupiter Island, there were no crowds. No cameras, just the low hum of tires cutting through the night until flashing lights suddenly broke the darkness and turned an ordinary scene into something far more unsettling. As police vehicles surrounded a wreck that didn't look routine, an overturned car, debris scattered across the road. And within minutes, one name began to spread in disbelief: Tiger Woods. Because what unfolded there wasn't just another accident. It marked the beginning of a moment that shook the sport to its core, challenging the image of a man who, for decades, had been more than an athlete. He was golf's defining figure, a symbol of dominance, resilience, and near-mythical control. Someone who had won 15 major championships and repeatedly returned from setbacks that would have ended most careers, building a legacy where fragility never seemed to exist. Which is why the first alerts reporting his arrest after a car crash did more than surprise people. They shattered that illusion instantly, as confusion quickly turned into concern, with early reports conflicting. Some suggesting a simple accident, while others hinted at something more serious. Until the reality began to emerge that this was not minor at all, but a violent rollover crash involving another vehicle. An impact strong enough to flip one of the most recognizable figures in sports upside down, both physically and symbolically. As witnesses described chaos, twisted metal, and a scene that felt far removed from a typical traffic incident. And as authorities arrived and began assessing what had happened, the focus shifted from the crash itself to the details surrounding it, the condition of those involved, the behavior observed, and the small inconsistencies that started to raise bigger questions, turning what should have been a straightforward investigation into something far more complex, where the story was no longer just about how the accident occurred, but about what it revealed in the moments immediately after. Because what police discovered at the scene would turn a simple crash into something far more serious. The focus quickly shifted from the wreck itself to the moments leading up to it. And to understand how everything spiraled, you have to rewind to just seconds before impact, when Tiger Woods was reportedly driving along a narrow road in Jupiter Island and made what should have been a routine decision, attempting to overtake a truck ahead. A move drivers make every day without consequence. But in this case, something went wrong at exactly the wrong time, as his vehicle clipped the trailer during the pass, instantly breaking control and triggering a chain reaction that unfolded in seconds. The car thrown off balance before flipping completely, metal twisting, glass shattering, and momentum turning into chaos in a violent rollover. That, at highway speeds, often leaves little margin between survival and tragedy, making it almost unbelievable that it didn't end in something far worse. Yet as the vehicle came to rest, the situation only grew more complicated. Because when first responders arrived, they weren't just dealing with a crash, they were facing one of the most recognizable figures in sports in a condition that raised immediate concern, as instead of the expected shock or adrenaline, witnesses and officials described Woods as disoriented, slowed, almost lethargic, not fully present in the moment. And that unexpected behavior is what began to shift the narrative away from a straightforward accident and toward deeper questions about what had really happened in those critical seconds before and after the impact. It was the kind of behavior that immediately raises concern in any roadside investigation. And in that moment, the attention shifted away from the wreck itself to the man behind the wheel. Because something about the situation didn't add up. When authorities found no evidence of alcohol, the most common explanation was suddenly eliminated, deepening the mystery around why Tiger Woods had lost control on that quiet stretch of road in Jupiter Island. And as officers continued their assessment, the tone of the scene changed. Questions became sharper, observations more serious, until the situation escalated into something no one expected. Woods was placed under arrest on suspicion of DUI, A decision that instantly sent shockwaves through the sports world because of who he is and what he represents, turning what could have remained a traffic incident into a major legal and public moment. But what truly intensified the situation came immediately afterward, when, as part of standard procedure, authorities requested a chemical test to determine whether any substances were involved, a step that typically provides clarity and resolves uncertainty. Yet Woods refused, and that single decision added another layer of complexity, transforming the narrative from a confusing accident into a deeply scrutinized case where unanswered questions, legal implications, and public perception all collided at once. Refusal of a urine test doesn't just complicate an investigation, it fundamentally changes its direction, both legally and in the public eye, because when the clearest path to answers is declined, it creates a vacuum where speculation quickly grows louder than facts. And in this case, that single decision reframed everything surrounding Tiger Woods. Investigators began looking beyond alcohol and the obvious explanations, with reports pointing toward the possibility of prescription medication impairment, a far more complex and less visible factor, one that doesn't announce itself like alcohol but can quietly affect reaction time, awareness, and judgment, turning the story from one of reckless behavior into something more layered and unsettling. As the focus shifted from what happened on that road in Jupiter Island to what might have been happening long before he ever got behind the wheel. Because at that point, the crash itself became less of the story and more of a trigger, an event that exposed deeper questions beneath the surface. And as those questions grew, the past inevitably resurfaced, particularly the Tiger Woods 2017 DUI arrest, when he was found in a similarly disoriented state and later revealed to have multiple prescription drugs in his system, something that was initially framed as an isolated mistake, but now, nearly a decade later, began to feel more like part of a pattern, forcing a broader and more uncomfortable conversation about the physical toll his career has taken. Because behind the dominance, the 15 majors, and even the improbable victory at the Masters tournament, there has always been another reality: years of surgeries, chronic pain, and the relentless cycle of recovery that comes with it, where treatment often involves medication and where the line between healing and dependence can become increasingly blurred. Reminding everyone that while Tiger Woods has long been defined as the ultimate comeback story, recovery itself is rarely simple. And sometimes the battles that matter most continue long after the trophies are won. This is where the contrast becomes impossible to ignore. Because on one side stands Tiger Woods' symbol of precision, discipline, and control, who built a career on mastering the smallest details, while on the other is a human being navigating pain, pressure, and expectations at a level few could truly understand. And that tension is what makes this moment feel so surreal. The same figure who could shape a golf shot down to the millimeter, now caught in a situation where control seemed to slip away entirely, revealing a reality that even legends are not immune to struggle. They simply carry it differently, often out of sight. And that's what reframes this entire incident, because it stops being just about a crash or an arrest and starts to feel like a glimpse into something deeper and ongoing. A story that didn't begin on that road in Jupiter Island and may not end there either, raising a far more difficult question about whether this was a breaking point or part of something he has been quietly battling for years. And in the hours that followed, the situation unfolded with an almost unsettling calm. As Woods was taken into custody and held while the investigation continued without clear answers or immediate resolution, before being released without a dramatic conclusion, no definitive statement. Just a return to the public eye under a cloud heavier than anything he had faced during competition. Because sometimes the silence that follows an event carries more weight than the event itself. And while things may have quieted behind closed doors, outside, the reaction was immediate and explosive. As the news spread rapidly, turning a private moment into a global conversation almost instantly. Headlines spread instantly, as Tiger Woods became the center of a global reaction, with fans divided between concern and disappointment, some pointing to years of pain and possible deeper struggles, while others questioned how someone with so much at stake could risk it again. And in that moment, the story shifted away from golf entirely. No longer about majors or comebacks, but about something far more personal, as the image of greatness collided with vulnerability, forcing people to confront a different reality, where the conversation is no longer about what he has achieved, but about what comes next, and whether this moment defines his legacy or becomes just another chapter in a career built on resilience.